All right, so we're looking at our I-step number 5, 1 and 2. Were there any questions I need to talk about? Okay, numbers 3 and 4. Do you remember when we differ between a solid line and a dotted line?
Yes.
When do you do a dotted line?
When it's equal to, not equal to. When it's not equal to.
When it's not or equal to. It's just a greater than or just a less than. So that means it's dotted when it's no extra line. And then when do I shade? Like if it's a less than, where do I shade? Megan? Down. Less than, you shade below, you shade down. Think less means down. It means low. It means less than. Then greater than means that we shade up, we shade above the line, etc. Gwenna, question? Yeah, a number 4, you need to get your y by itself in order to graph. When you divide by a negative number, you have to flip your inequality sign.
I got the first one. Well, I think I just graphed wrong because I have the
Equations right? You must have just graphed wrong. Make sure you're going through the y-axis, not the x-axis.
Oh, yeah.
All right, next page, 5 and 6. This one, there really was no work. Read the graph, see what happens. That's what I thought. I thought the only other place it touched was here.
Oh, I know that.
That's fine. If I put this on an assessment, it'll be like very obvious what point is there. I think it was I thought it was that one, but
3 seconds on number 4.
No. Well, if you would have done it beforehand.
Yeah, but beforehand, I was doing
Okay. I'm not going to have an argument with the 16-year-olds. I'm sorry. Okay, well, I'm definitely not having an argument with the 15-year-old. Number 7, 8, and 9. Guys, these questions, if they are not like easy, so quick problems, then like you need to get like a Zoom call help from me because these lines need to be like second nature. We've been doing lines. This is like our 3rd or 4th ISEP dedicated to lines. This is the hill I'm going to die on. And when you take the PSAT, you should be like, wow, I know how to do all these lines because Miss White made us do all these lines problem. Yes, Megan. No, it's math and English, I think.
I hate that. Why did I do that? This is my worst problem.
Someone decided a long time ago that those were our tested subjects, and that's what we test you guys on to see if you're smart enough.
Yeah, I guess that's how
I just wrote
Any questions on 7 or 8 or 9? All right. The last 3 say write in point slope form. I got a little crazy and I went into autopilot, so I just kept solving. But you should have stopped and you should have done y equals or y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. And you should have been able to just plug in and then leave it. It should have been pretty easy. There's not like half the work I did you didn't really need. But if it's not in this form that's highlighted in orange, it is not correct. I asked for point slope form. I even gave you point slope form. You got to use it. Yes, Gwenna.
So for the last one,
Uh-huh.
I just got the same thing. Oh, wait.
You plug in the other point?
Yeah.
That's fine.
So I would have gotten
No, you should have gotten the final answer should have been the same. But you maybe had, this answer was wrong.
Or I got y negative 1/4x minus 15.
Something's wrong there.
Because I added negative 3/4, or I did negative 3/4 minus 12/4.
It should have been plus 12/4 because it would have been y minus 3 on this side. So you would have had to add 3 but to the other side. Plus 12/4, not minus 12/4.
Okay. I think I minus negative.
Yeah. All right, I want you to take a second, finish one you're on, put your name on it. I'm gonna come around for it. I'm just gonna leave it right here while I get papers. Oh, that's it? Anyone else need this one? Silas, can you do your homework at home?
Oh, I did. When was the last time that I did my homework?
I think we've done this several times.
When was the last time I
Keep holding me up and clock.
What's my grade in this class? Highest grade in math class I've ever got. And I come in early.
In your bubble. Silas, I hear you.
I got it. I'm gonna go sleep right now. I don't need.
When you're fixing, I hold you to higher.
Well, because I pull up to, I pull up to school early just to do math. Because I'm not good at it. Because I'm bad at this. It needs this stuff. Dude, I do like 7, 10 every. You haven't heard. I can do anything.
No, it's not this one.
Oh, my notes in.
That was a clean state.
Oh, my notes. This is tight. This is not COVID appropriate.
Definitely covered it. I don't know. Yeah.
I put the wrong ones in. You need to have the notes that say 2.6 and 3.1. So that's my fault.
Not the other one. Not the one that says lesson 2.6, which would make more sense. That's just where my head's at today. It's the one that looks like this. Yeah, 2.6 and 3.1. Is that in your folder? Awesome. Good. It looks like this. Perfect. It's almost as if. All right. Everybody with me with their notes? Everybody looking at the board? That's not it. If only people listened when I talk. Sometimes I just like,
What would you do if I hit
Hit me in the
something?
face right now, man.
I would put you in the hallway and I'd call for admin. And I used to teach at public school and I learned holds on what to do if kids were hitting each other.
All right,
So I know what to do.
What you do?
I am like 5 trained.
Those are so interesting.
Fair.
But, okay, I've got a minute for a quick tangent. But if you started hitting Silas, I need another adult, because if I just take you down and Silas gets mad that you hit him, what if Silas starts hitting you while I'm holding you? Right?
Then I'm like defenseless.
Right, then you're defenseless and then you're trying to fight with me. So if there was an actual fight, I need another adult in here for one of us to hold you and one of us to hold you.
I could totally take that.
What'd you say? Sometimes I would let kids fight. If you're gonna fight, there's nothing I can do. I'm 5'2". What am I gonna do? Get in your way?
Yell at us? I think if there
No one listens when I yell anyway, when I'm being nice. So why would I yell and be mean? Max, and then I'd give you a detention for video recording. That's something else I would do. What'd you say? Yeah, we would suspend kids for recording fights. Because I would sit and watch you and I'd be like, Ava's recording, Max is recording. Because you're posting it and that's not allowed. All right, that's been our minute of Miss White's public school experience on the board. I would love to talk more about it, but we don't do that. So, all right. If you're not going to respond like regular high schoolers, we can do kindergarten. 1, 2, 3. Eyes on me. What do you say back? 1, 2. Eyes on you. Let's try it again. If I say 1, 2, 3, eyes on me, you say 1, 2, eyes on you. Welcome to kindergarten. Ready? 1, 2, 3, eyes on me.
1, 2, eyes on you.
1, 2, eyes on you. Eyes on the board. They're so much better than you guys. Okay, what we're doing is we're learning about angles. We're going to talk about what we know about angles. If we do not get through all our notes and you don't get time to work on homework or see your test, that's on you, not me. What are 2 special types of relationships we know about angles? I don't want to do complementary, I want to do supplementary. What's a special type of angles that are supplementary? Linear. Linear pairs. They are also adjacent, but by definition, the linear pairs are supplementary. All right, I heard someone say vertical angles. What do we know about vertical angles? They're congruent. The next one is kind of an oh duh sentence. It is all right angles are congruent. Oh duh. All right angles are congruent. The next 3 are a little bit longer sentences, and they're all in the conditional form, not necessarily for any reason, but we are going to look at them real quick. So this one says, if 2 angles are supplementary to the same angle, if 2 angles are supplementary to the same angle, then they are congruent. It is. I told you that because I said it was conditional. Oh no, that's okay. Let's think about what that looks like. I think the best way is doing like linear pairs and vertical angles. Let's say this angle up here is 160. How much is this angle that is supplementary to it going to be? 20. And what about this angle that is also supplementary to it? Also 20. There's only one way that I can add to 160 to get to 180. So if these 2 angles, 20 and 20, are both supplementary to 160, then they are congruent to each other. Same idea for complementary. If 2 angles are complementary to the same angle, then they are congruent. Are complementary. Maybe I'm going to write a little 90 up there so I don't forget that complementary means 90 and sup means 180, just in case I, lost some brain cells over the weekend. Then they are congruent. Questions so far? Last one is if 2 angles are supplementary and congruent, then they are, if 2 angles are supplementary and congruent, what does that mean those angles are? Not necessarily. They're just congruent and supplementary. No. I like where your brain is at, but that's not right. They're equal to 180. Nope, you were right before. 90 degrees, and that's why I said not correct, but where your brain was at was right. They will be, I guess, perpendicular to each other, and they are going to be right angles. They are 90-degree angles. Yeah. The reason we can't use complementary is complementary are 2 angles that add up to 90. So if I've got 2 angles that are supplementary and congruent, so that means that they're the same length and they both add up to 180. Well, what would that be? 2 times something equals 180. They both have to be 90. Yes, Megan? Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to solve 2 problems, and then we're going to do 2 proofs. The first problem, what do I have going on there? And they equal each other. So I'm going to write vertical angles are congruent. Mm-hmm. We are now, because we're going to get to the point where we're going to have to write that. We're going to be doing proofs with vertical angles. Mm-hmm. Vertical angles are congruent. And like when I said, we're going to set them equal to each other. Everyone's focused up? And then solve. I don't think that's reflexive.
Well, no, I did it right. I had it February 16th.
Oh, okay. But that's also not reflexive. There we go. Awesome. All right, next one. What's going on here? Because they are linear pairs. So I'm going to write linear pairs are sum. These 2 add up to 180. Good. So that's what we're going to do. Don't forget to label your picture. Especially if you have no idea what to do, we're kind of going back to the geometry where we have to like label our picture. Never be embarrassed to like write what the angle of the measures are, or write what the segment is. I'm literally the only person that sees your test, so it's not like too cool for school to like not show any work. Because if you mess up, then I'm going to be like, where was your work at? And that's embarrassing. Your question? Anyone questions? Feeling okay about this? All right, let's do 2 geometry proofs to help you get ready for homework. All right, when we do geometry proofs, it's the same as an algebraic proof, but I'm also using properties, postulates, and definitions. The big change is I'm going to write definition of something. Like if it's a right angle and I get to set something equal to 90, I'm going to say definition of a right angle. If it's a midpoint, I'm going to say definition of a midpoint. So those are totally acceptable answers. So let's look at the first one. We're just going to walk slowly through it. I'm going to draw your attention first to this little given prove section. Given is always my first reason, and so whatever is given to me goes on the first statement. So that goes in the first box on the left side. B is the midpoint of MD. That's what's given. I can't start with anything else than what is given to me. So I'm going to write given for my first reason. We okay with that? Okay. Now the prove tells you when to stop. It's like if you do Google Maps, you start like at your house and then you end at wherever your destination is, right? We need to know where we're ending. If we have no idea where we're going, how do we know where to go? You don't know whether to turn left or right or go north or south or whatever. So we're going to write this in my very last box. However, never, never, ever, ever, never, ever, never, ever, 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 will there be the word prove in this last box. You will never write prove. You'll never write solve. You'll never write answer. You'll never write solution. You will always write like an actual property. So most of us have not done that. However, when you get to geometric proofs, we're all tempted to. Do not be tempted to do that. All right, let's go on. My first my first actual reason, I wrote given, and then the next step, it says I went from B is the midpoint of MD to writing MB is equal to BD. Why am I allowed to say MB is equal to BD? Because it's a midpoint. No, that's just definition of midpoint. Nope, that's not the one below it. We'll look at what the next one is. Okay, hold tight to it. All right, the next one says MB plus BD equals MD. Oh, I love that. MB plus BD equals MD. If you're not sure, look at the picture, draw it out. I am adding segments together, which means it's segment addition postulate. Hey, off topic, focus up. Number 4 has a big blank. So I went from MB plus BD equals MD to saying MB plus blank equals MD. What goes in that blank?
BD.
BD just came out of that blank.
Yeah, I was about to say it's the same.
What can I replace BD with?
MB.
Why? Where did I tell that? Where did we see that? Bless you. Up on number 2, I already said that MB and BD were equal to each other, so I'm allowed to substitute in MB for BD. We call that substitution property. And then the last step, we wrote 2MB equals MD, and why am I allowed to write that? What did you say? Well, because it was where I'm ending up, but like, what's going to be the reason I would write? Megan. Simplify. We added my MB plus MB. Simplify. All right, let's keep rolling. Let's do another one. This is the last one we're doing. Then I'm going to hand out homework, and hopefully, I don't think I'm going to have time to pass back your test, but I'll have time to update your grades. Someone hasn't taken it yet, so I can't pass it back. All right, last one. I was given FD bisects EFC. Okay, pause. FD bisects EFC. Good. So Ben said that would make EFD and DFC congruent. Okay, we might use that in the future. It also tells us that DFB is bisected by FC. All right, we already got the gears turning. Let's write our last statement in first. Let's do 1 is congruent to 3, just so I know where I'm ending up. And then what's my first reason? Given. No, it is the definition. What's it the definition of? Why am I allowed to go from FD bisects EFC to angle 1 is congruent to angle 2? Maggie, is that you talking? No? I thought that was right. It was? Maggie, say it louder. Okay, somebody help her out. Good, so because it bisects, they're congruent. So that's definition of not congruent angles. Bisector. The bisector makes my congruent angles.
Okay. So they're putting in like they're putting in
So because I went from it was a bisector to the angles are congruent, the reason the angles are congruent is because we had a bisector. No, not quite.
So they're writing
Yes. Ben said it's angle bisector because the bisector is what makes my congruent my equal angles. Yes. Okay, from step 2 to step 3, I went from angle 1 is congruent to angle 2 to measure of angle 1 equals measure of angle 2. That's definition of congruent angles. Anytime you switch from congruence to equality, that's definition of congruent angles. It is going to Y. So we had the 2's in the middle and we crossed them out. That makes it transitive. What else would be okay? Substitution. I'll take substitution there too. Megan? Good. Why? Good. So before we went from congruent to equality, we called that definition of congruent angles. And now I'm going from equality to congruence. Anytime you go back and forth between the two, it's definition of congruent angles. Because they are congruent, their measurements are the same. Okay? All right.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
Next period or period after?
The period after is lunch. It's B. Yeah. Do you listen to words I say? That's not a personal attack, Dan. I don't think anyone listens to it, so you're just the butt of the joke today. That's okay. Who wants to take for homework? There were 8 of you that said that you could get it. There's 1. There's 2. There's 5. Look, I see one. One. There's another paper copy. I'll 2.6 homework. And you what is the number? There's no way. I'm not working out. Okay, whatever. There's no way I would have reached for a lot of paper. Done. Last, does anyone want a paper copy? I have one more.
I'll take it.
Oh, you asked first. Wah, wah. Say it again, Glenna. All right.